Okay, now we're going to cut out the thread catcher basket that goes with your pin cushion that you made. And you're going to need some of all the stuff that I got in the kit. You're going to need your dowel with a couple of beads. You're going to need this, these are called stays. You'll need that piece of that. You're going to need to cut 2 pieces of fabric that are 3 1/4 by 2 1/4, any color you want, 3 1/4 by 2 1/4. You're going to need to cut a piece that is 5 by 5. You're going to need to cut 2 circles, one from the lining fabric and one from your outside fabric, and you're going to use the same pattern piece that you used for the pin cushion. So cut 2 of those, lining and outside of your thread catcher. And then you're going to need to cut 2 pieces of fabric that are 18 inches long. This one's 18 inches long. And the lining piece is 8 1/2 inches. This is the lining, it's 8 1/2 inches wide. This is the outside fabric, and this is 7 1/2 inches wide. So they're both 18 inches long. Outside fabric, 7 1/2, lining, 8 1/2 wide. And then, of course, you need a hinge. Now, these are used hinges that I have salvaged off doors that are out in my barn, and I've cleaned them up, and I know that they're not the most attractive looking hinges, but the only parts that are going to show are these 3 rings. Everything else is going to be covered, so don't worry about how they look. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, this is your hinge piece. All right, you're going to fold where the pattern says to fold. Then you're going to fold back 1/4 inch on the top and 1/4 inch on the bottom. And then you are going to stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side. Let me do that real quick. Okay, then when you take it out and you go to cut your threads off, cut the corner too, but don't cut into your stitching. Just cut off the corners and do the bottom corners as well. So cut off your corners all the way, all 4 corners. Now you're going to turn this around. And you're going to slip that ugly old hinge into the pocket. It's a pretty tight fit, but that's what you want, nice tight fit. And then you're just going to slip stitch in between the rungs. Slip stitch it closed right in between there, all right? So that's all there is to that piece. Pretty simple. Okay, go ahead and do that and come back when you're done. When you do go to slip stitch this together, you cannot do a ladder stitch. There's just not enough room in there to do it. So just do a simple overhand stitch and just close up those edges like that, all right? Don't be fancy, just be neat. Keep it neat. And now this is the weight that holds the little bag onto your sewing machine so it doesn't fall off. Pretty clever, huh? Okay, so get that done. Okay, so now for both of your pieces, you're going to put the short ends together, your inside and your outside. Put your short ends together and stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance. By the way, I press these because if you're using the fabric that I sent and they're the fat quarters, there's a lot of folds in them, and it's very difficult to work with fabric that's got all those folds in there. So I did press all of my pieces before I started. And now I'm going to do my lining. Okay, now I'm going to do like what we've done in the past. We want to find where our quarter marks are. So this is the top piece. This is where I just stitched. This is the fold on the other side. I'm just going to put a little snip in there like that. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put that snip right on the seam. There's the seam, there's the snip, and I'm going to put a little snip on each of these folds. So now I know where my quarters are. Then I'm going to take my circle piece and I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to put a little snip here. Keeping it folded in half, I'm going to put a little snip here. And then I'm going to put my two snips together. And I'm going to snip here. And I'm going to snip here. Now my quarters are marked. So now we just need to pin this in. So you're going to line up one of your snips, open up your seam, line up one of your snips, right sides together, and place it on the seam and pin it in place. And then go straight across to the first snip that you put in, which is, oh, I put this one on upside down. Okay, turn it around. Here we go. This is the side I have the snips on. So once again, I'm going to open up that seam. I want to open on this side. Okay, got it. Put my snip on the seam and pin it. Come over to the other side. Put my snip on that, snip to snip, and pin it. Then come over to the sides and go snip to snip on the sides. And on the other one. So now you know that you've got it in there. You got equal amounts of fabric between each snip. And now you're just going to take your pins and you're going to finish pinning this in here. Okay. It should fit right in there. Pin it in. Couple of different pins between each pin and you should be okay. And then you're going to sew the bottom in. And you'll do the same thing with the lining. You could be working on yours while you're watching me do mine. No point wasting time, right? You guys don't have a lot of free time, so get it pinned in there. And like I say, pin in the bottom, the same as you did the top, and come back and we will go from there. All right, I just made a big mistake. I thought I hit video and instead I hit photograph, so this whole thing that I just did didn't work. Never taped. So I'm going to do it again. It's already stitched, but I'm going to have you watch me stitch it anyway. I've marked and pinned my bottom in to my lining, and I'm going to show you how to sew in a circle. You're going to put it so that the circle side is down. All right, it's pinned in all the way around, okay, evenly. You mark your notches like I showed you, you pin it in, and then when you go to stitch it, you're going to stitch it with the round side down. And so you're just going to put it under here, starting at the seam, take out the pin, and as long as you keep working your edges together all the way around, this will stitch in perfectly. It fits in perfectly. When you get to a pin, just take it out. Work your edges together and stitch. Not sure you're able to even see what I'm doing here, but I hope you can see what I'm doing. And stitch. Take out the pin, line up my edges, and stitch around. Take your time. You don't have to rush. You are sewing on a curve. Line up my edges, stitch, line up my edges again and stitch, and now I'm back to the beginning. So now my bottom is stitched in. You're going to do the same with the top. Sew in your top. Okay? All right, so come back when you have that all done, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so now the next step is you're going to put your outside fabric inside the lining, right sides together. So this is my outside fabric, this is my lining fabric, and I've got them pinned together, right sides together. Okay, right sides together. And you're going to stitch all the way around that edge. All right? So go ahead and get that stitched. You do need to leave an opening for turning though, however. I just came back to let you know that. You need to leave an opening to turn it. So you're going to leave a small opening so that you can pull the inside out in the right, leave an opening. So here we go. Grandma's going to stitch it up. Okay, so I stitch it together all the way around. I left an opening right here so that I can turn it right side out, which is what I am going to do now. Just keep working it out of that little hole. All right, there we go. Now, lay this out and kind of finger press. Finger press means to run your fingernail over the seam so it kind of lays flat, it opens it up. You got to get that seam opened up. So I'm just going to finger press it all the way around. I'm going to move you back. Okay, there we go. Finger press. Lay it out. Push your seams apart and just run your fingernail over the seam, and that's a finger press. All the way around. Okay? Now you're going to push your lining down inside. But remember, your lining is an inch bigger than your bag. So you're going to leave it up when you get it in there and come back and we'll finish up the bag. All right, so now we've stitched the lining and we've stitched the top. But remember, the top was an inch bigger than, or the lining was an inch bigger than the outside of your bag. So when you put it in there, this is my seam right here that I finger pressed. I just folded this thing over about 3/4 of an inch here on the top. And now that I've got it all pinned down, nice, I'm going to stitch it down. Now here's the opening that I turned it through. You need to leave a little bit of that open still because we have to slip this stay inside. This is what's going to make your basket stand out so that you can keep dropping your little threads into it. So just leave a small enough opening that you can slip that up inside. All right? And you're going to stitch right around the edge of your lining piece to give this bag a nice little border. I'm going to go do that now. Papa's vacuuming. You hear that noise on the floor, that's what that is. I'm not sure what he's vacuuming, but he's vacuuming. Okay, I'm almost all the way around. And there we go. I'm just going to leave a small opening that I can push that stay through. Now to help stabilize the hem, I'm just going to top stitch around the upper edge. And you can go all the way, you don't have to leave an opening. We're just going to put a little top stitch on here, and that keeps this top edge from folding over the way, you know, in ways you don't want it. So we're just going to run a top stitch around here. That's done. I'm going to set this over here. And now I want you to pick up the two little pieces that are marked as tabs. And all you're going to do is you're going to fold these right sides together lengthwise. And you're going to stitch up that seam, 1/4 inch. There's one. And here is two. being very annoying, isn't he? Gonna smack him. All right, now grab those hemostats that I sent you. And reach up inside there and just pinch the end like that, and you can pull it right through. Okay? See how easy that was? Just push out the ends. And there's one tab. And do the same thing with this. Go up in there, pinch it, and pull it through. And there we go, all turned. Okay, so now, just gonna kind of flatten them out. Like that. And I'm gonna take my bag, and where my back seam is, you're going to lay your hinge on there. So the center hinge is by the seam, and now you're just going to put a pin right alongside that center one right here, and another pin right here on this side of it, so that you know that that's right where your center hinge part is. And now you're going to take your tabs and you're going to fold them in half, and you're going to put one on this side, put it down about 1/8 of an inch. Here's the center rod. You're going to put it right on the side. You're going to pin this on here. This is on the outside of the bag. You're going to take your other one, fold it up, and again about 1/8 of an inch down, you're going to pin it on. And again, this is the side, the edge of that, of the pin, and you're going to pin it there. And now you're going to stitch these on, but you're going to stitch just close to the edge, just enough to catch it, okay? And then when we get done, we're going to flip them up and we're going to stitch them again, and that way the raw edges are caught on the inside. So I'll show you over here. I'll slip you back over here where you can see what I'm doing. All right, I'm just going to catch the edges. There's one. And there's two. Now I'm going to take them out, take this out. And now I'm going to flip this up, and I'm going to stitch right along the top edge of the band. Maybe it'll be easier for you to see if I did it in reverse. So now I'm going to stitch it right along here to hold these up. There's one. You can just stitch straight across and catch down the other one. All right, so there's all your seams caught up in there. And you take it off and you look at it, and bring it back over here. When you take it off and you look at it, it's all stitched in and there's no raw edges. Very easy to do. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all my ugly threads that are hanging. I hate hanging threads. So we'll get rid of these. Clean it up. Now all that's left to do is to put the stay in there and close up that little hole. And it should be finished. All right, so here's the stay. And here's my hole. I'm going to put that in there. And of course, when you come to, there we go, it went right through. I'm just going to push this all the way around. And now Tucker's home, so now we have even more noise upstairs. And you're going to put the whole piece in. And it's going to overlap itself, but that's okay. Put the whole piece in there. I just got hung up over here. There we go. The whole piece is in. And now you just want to close up that hole that you left to turn it. All closed up. Trim off all your threads. Now you're going to take that dowel that I sent you. Take off one of the beads. One bead. Take it off. Push the dowel through here. Then catch a tab. Oops, I'm doing this backwards. It's got to go this way. You want this facing you. You want your loops, if you look, these kind of hang down. So when it sits here, it's hanging down. So make sure when you do it, you got the bag facing you. These loops are down. Slide it through. Slide it through the next one. Catch your loop. Push it through all the way. All right, why is it not going through? It's caught on something inside the hinge. Doesn't want to go in. Well, I'm going to have to take a hammer to it and get it to go all the way through. And then you can glue on one bead if you want to and leave the other one off so that if you want to take this bag off to empty it, you can. I just glued both of mine on and I just take the whole thing and just dump it. But now you've got a little bag to hang on the side of your sewing machine. And the other thing that I did with mine was that I laid it down like this. I put hot glue on here and I hot glued the pin cushion right to the plate. So it's all one piece and it works really, really well. So I'm gonna work on banging this dowel in there and you can finish up yours. It's so cute. I love them. And they're very convenient. So I hope you enjoy yours. Hope it came out nice. I'll see it when I come for Christmas. Bye. Okay, here it is. I glued the pin cushion on the top. And there's the bag hanging down the side. And when you put it on your sewing machine, let's see if I can get the whole thing in here. There it is. Isn't that cute? And it works great because I made one for me and it's been very helpful. So I hope you enjoy it. If you don't like it, don't make it. That's the whole idea here. Make what ones you want and leave out the ones you don't. All right. Bye. Merry Christmas.